Chapter 5. I promise Part 2. It's been a few years since then, but I'll never forget it. I don't know what Xavier's been up to. Starting OMI took a lot of resources and time. It helped keep my mind off things. Once the dust settled, a new president had to be elected. Kelly Smith became the United States' new president, and she was no nonsense. She was tired of all the corruption and of watching people suffer. She was the first to contact OMI and offer a substantial government contract. The military needed help, and I knew just the people for the job. I put a lot of good people to work, building new types of planes and spacecraft. We were helping to get the economy back on track. People could now travel more easily and affordably than ever. Of course, I was also researching and developing many other projects. The exospine helped countless people. My leg braces not only helped me, but allowed so many others to walk again. Then there were the exoskeletons, which were being used across construction and industry. New roads, buildings, you name it, were being built more efficiently, more safely, and more affordably. Affordable was the key word here, especially since we were in a recession. We had the people to answer to. I remember hearing Kelly's speech. I work for you, the people. It's not the other way around. You should not be afraid of your governing body. You elect us. We are nothing more than public servants. She was true to her word and genuine. The people needed to hear that and see it in action. What's the old saying? Actions speak louder than words. Sam says, Jack. Jack replies, what? Are you daydreaming again? Sam asks. Jack sighs. Yeah, you could say that. He gets up from the pilot seat. I need to pee and get some coffee. Sam continues. What were you dreaming about? Jack mutters. I wasn't dreaming. I was having a damn nightmare. He heads into the kitchen area, brews a cup of coffee, and grabs a snack. Sam, Jack says, I'm heading down to the cargo bay. I gotta check on the big guy. His programming is still wonky. Jack arrives in the loading bay. Big guy, you doing all right? He asks, walking up to his Titan. The Titan stands against the wall as large robotic arms work on making repairs. Jack looks up at the Titan as the massive 3D printers hum. It's almost done, big guy, he says. This one should work a lot better than the last one. The Titan replies, I'm sorry I broke it, pilot. Jack chuckles. Don't be sorry. It's all trial and error. I never thought I'd have an N5 Titan riding shotgun with me. Can't believe I found you on Echo 1. I owe you a lot, big guy. You saved our lives. Jack takes a seat, his mind racing. I don't know if I'm ready for this, he thinks. What does she want? I stayed away from her to keep her safe. Sam? Yes, Jack. Can you pull up the letter on my tablet? Of course, Sam says. I grab my tablet and take a big sip of coffee. I click on Claire's letter. Dear Archangel, I hope this letter finds you well. You don't know me. My name is Claire Xavier. I don't know how to write this, but I guess I'm asking for your help. I will try not to bore you with all the details. I've been diagnosed with cancer. It's pretty aggressive and incurable, and I've come to terms with it. I'm asking for help for my brother, James Xavier, and my son, Pete. They are my world. My brother thinks I don't know, but we are badly in debt. The bank may take our house, and we have very little in the bank. The medical bills are piling up. I don't know how you can help, but everyone says to have faith. Well, I will tell you that I'm kind of running out of faith, but I must hold on for my brother and my son. Could you do me the biggest favor? I don't know how you'll find him, but his name is Jack Wesley. We dated during high school. He and my brother were accused of murder on a planet called Echo 1. Jack left without a trace after the trial. I know he's out there. Could you tell him? I've always loved him. I fear I will never have a chance to see him again. My time is running out. I hope with all my heart you find him and tell him to live and love again. That is my wish. With love, Claire Xavier. Jack, are you okay? Sam asks. Jack is stunned. How long will it take us to get to Earth? Jack inquires. Sam starts calculating their current speed. We could be there in 72 Earth hours, he replies. What do you want to do? Sam asks. Let's go home, Jack says. I don't remember much after that. I guess it was just too much. I was too emotional. Claire has cancer. It's incurable. Xavier is in debt. Claire has a son named Pete. This was a lot to take in. The bills would be no problem. The cancer, that's a whole other story. I arrive in Florida at our OMI testing development headquarters, where I stored my ship. Who the hell is going to question it? We had a lot of prototype aircraft coming and going. Everyone knew about this aircraft. That was the best part. I didn't have to hide it. It was in plain sight. Nothing was giving her away. Even when you spotted her, she was just another ship. That was the idea of Stealth 101. I contacted Ebb. I needed a non-stop flight to Boston ASAP. He was on it immediately. I was in the air 1 hour later and on my way to Boston. I'm coming, Claire. I arrived in Boston around 8 p.m. It was Tuesday when I finally got to the hospital, and it was almost 10 p.m. I had already taken care of the room and settled the bills. What would I say? I was getting nervous. I hadn't left things on good terms. Would she forgive me? Something told me to just go to her room. I looked at her door. Room 5. I was about to knock when a young boy with brown hair, blue eyes, and pale skin answered the door. He just stared at me. Hi, I started to say. He looked at me and smiled. Hi, Uncle Jack, he said in a quiet voice, trying not to wake someone. Mommy's sleeping. You can come in if you want. I said, Hi, Pete. You don't know me. Pete shook his head. I do know you. Mommy and Uncle James told me about you. You and Mommy used to be boyfriend and girlfriend. Jack smirked and said, Did she say that? That was many years ago. Just then, a woman's voice spoke up. Pete, who's there? He looked back at her. It's Uncle Jack. Mommy, Pete said as he opened the door wider. Now I could see the woman in bed, hooked up to equipment. Pete looked at me and pulled me by the hand into the room. Look, Mommy, it's Uncle Jack, he said. The door closed behind me. When our eyes met, Claire looked at me like she saw a ghost, trying to take me in, wondering if this was a dream. She could barely get the words out. Jack, Claire said. I replied, Claire, nice room. I would have asked for the jacuzzi, but that's just me. Claire looked at me, with tears streaming down her face. Jack, it's you. Yes, I replied, but don't tell anybody, especially this girl, Claire Xavier. She gets jealous. Claire smiled at me. You haven't lost your sense of humor. I walked over to her bed, and we sat and talked for a few hours. It was almost 2 a.m., and Pete was already asleep. I looked at my watch. Holy shit, Claire. I gotta let you get some sleep. Claire looked at me with wide eyes, like a puppy. Jack, promise me you'll be back. I promise, I replied. That was the first promise to Claire, and I would keep it. I got up to leave, and Claire looked at me. Jack, I have a question. Go for it, I said. How did you know I was here? Claire asked. I looked her dead in the face. Easy, I'm Archangel, Claire. Claire looked at me and just began laughing. You're the Archangel? She said. I replied, Yup. She laughed again. You're so funny. I'm happy you haven't lost your sense of humor. I'll see you tomorrow, Claire, I said. Claire got serious, leaning forward in her bed. Jack, you promise. I promise. Good night, Claire. I left the hospital and headed back to the hotel. So much to think about. No treatment was working. The only doctors I trusted were Dr. Laura Chris and Dr. Malcolm Cole. They were both in England. What the hell was I supposed to do, make a call? Yes, you idiot, I thought to myself. I'll call in the morning. I need to sleep. I woke up to my phone ringing and answered. Hello? Who is this? I asked, trying to remember the voice. Dear brother, it's Megan. Megan, I replied. What's going on, sister? Well, I'm going through a nasty divorce, as you already know. How did you know I was home? Megan, Ebb told me. Ah, Jack said. Well, you didn't call me just to chat. Obviously, Megan replied. Listen, I was thinking maybe of moving. I don't know where yet. Jack, the kids need a new start. I need a new start. The divorce was taking a toll on her. She exhaled. Why don't you take over my house? In Florida or New York? For now, you and the kids won't have to worry about much, Jack said. I was thinking about that. School's out for the summer. Where are you? Megan asked. Boston, Jack said. Visiting Claire Xavier. Megan said, Are you two getting back together? It's a little more complicated than that, Jack replied. I told Megan everything up to that point. Well, brother, she said, that's a lot, but I know you'll do the best you can. Have you seen Xavier yet? Nope, not yet, Jack said. I'm nervous about that. Listen, Jack, Megan said, sometimes things aren't easy, but you just have to face it sooner rather than later, just like your divorce. Jack replied, You're an asshole sometimes, Megan said. I know, Jack said. So, you're moving in? I think the kids would love New York. Let me talk it over with them, Megan said. I have a lot on my plate, and fuckface isn't making any of it easy. By the way, your dog, Jules, and your cat, Scout, miss you very much. Sophie, age 9, and Ryan, age 11, have been taking good care of them. They miss you. I know, Jack said. Send everyone my love. I've got a lot to do here first. I know, Megan replied. Take care of her. The next few weeks were a blur. Laura and Malcolm got to work, spending hours and hours on Randy. We weren't any closer to a cure. I would spend nights with Claire, just talking. Xavier was so busy that I never saw him. I was dreading the day we would meet. I didn't have to wait long. It was a Thursday night when Claire wanted me to stop in for dinner, burgers, fries, and milkshakes she requested. I got to the hospital around 5 p.m. after working in the lab. I could use a distraction. When I got to the room, the food was just being delivered. I knocked. Come in, Claire replied. I noticed a jacket on the chair. It wasn't Pete's. It was too big. A second later, someone came out of the bathroom, drying their hands. I will never forget when we made eye contact. Jack, he said. Xavier, I replied. Boys, if you're gonna fight here, at least eat first, Claire said. I'm starving, I said, grabbing a seat. Xavier was still drying his hands. Claire, did you know Jack was gonna be here? Xavier asked. I might have mentioned it. With all the medication, I don't know anymore, Claire replied. Xavier, and I knew Claire had set this up. Claire spoke up. I'm starving, boys. If you are just gonna sit there and look at each other all night, that's up to you. She reached for the bags. What did you even order? Xavier asked. Claire smiled. Frank's Burgers. Burgers, hot dogs, fries, onion rings, and milkshakes. Everything smells amazing. And to top it all off, we were watching The Princess Bride, Claire's favorite. Really, sis? Again? Xavier said. Claire gave him a look to shut up. Xavier, she said. Pete snuggled up next to her, chowing down on French fries. When the movie finished, Pete was fast asleep. Greasy comfort food will always knock you out. I looked at Claire. She was drying her eyes. It's a great movie, probably one of Earth's classics in American cinema history. Xavier began cleaning up. It was almost 9 p.m. Claire's nurse walked in and kindly told us it was time to leave. Claire gently shook Pete. Hey, my beautiful boy. It's time to wake up. Uncle James and Jack are going to take you home. Pete looked at her and groaned. I know, she said. You can sleep plenty when you get home. Do we have everything? Xavier said out loud. I couldn't help myself. I chimed in. Spectacles, testicles, wallet, and watch. Claire gave me a look. I glanced at Xavier and said, I'm good. Are you good? Xavier replied, Your face still looks like shit. I looked at him and said, Don't hate me, because I'm beautiful. Whatever, he said. You're just mad because your face doesn't sparkle in the moonlight, I replied. Claire said, Oh, not a Twilight reference, Jack. Sorry, I winked. I'm more of a Dracula fan myself, she said. You can't beat the classics. The nurse walked back in. Gentlemen, visiting hours are over. Xavier picked up Pete. Come on, buddy. Oh boy, you're getting heavy. He kissed Claire on the cheek as I began to walk out. Claire stopped me. Jack, you're not going to give me a kiss? She said. I'm sorry, I replied. I get nervous around girls. This one time, I dated a girl you might know. Shut up, Jack, she said. I want a kiss. I walked over and kissed her on the other cheek. As I went to pull away, she said, That was not the kind of kiss I was asking for. She put her hands on my cheeks and kissed me on the lips intensely. She looked at me, tears coming from my eyes, and said, "I'm sorry. I forgot about your face. I didn't mean to hurt you." "I know," I said. The shrapnel fragments in my face started glowing.
"It's kind of pretty," she said.
I replied, "I'll try to remember that when I'm shaving." Before we made it to the door, Claire looked at both of us and said, "Boys, thank you for not fighting." We both looked at each other and shrugged. We left Claire's room and made it halfway out of the hospital together when Pete said he had to go pee. "Shit, buddy. Why didn't you tell me before?" "I didn't have to go," Pete replied. We found a bathroom and waited for Pete.
"Jack," Xavier said.
"Why the hell are you here?" I knew this was coming. Should I tell him the truth? I am Archangel? Nope, I lied. Well, not everything I said was a lie. I told him I received a letter from Claire. Somebody named Archangel was searching for me. He sent the message that Claire talked about her cancer, her medical bills, and being financially in debt. Xavier, leaning against the wall, said, "Jack, I don't know what we would have done. We had nothing left. And out of nowhere, a miracle. A fucking miracle. Jack, that doesn't happen." Yeah, Xavier wasn't wrong. Miracles just don't happen like that. If only we could find a cure for Claire's cancer, Jack thought, but that was proving more troublesome than anyone had anticipated. Laura kicked me out of the lab tonight for my anger. I shouldn't have taken it out on the team. Everyone was working their asses off. Do I even tell Xavier? Now is not the best time. After all, I just showed up out of the blue. I need to tell him everything when the time is right. Pete came out of the bathroom. "All set, buddy?" Xavier said. Pete nodded, and Xavier picked him up as we started heading out to the parking garage. I don't remember much of the conversation. Once Xavier got Pete all settled in the car, Pete looked at me and said, "You're not coming home with us, Uncle Jack?" I looked at Xavier. He shrugged. "You're welcome to stay with us," Xavier said. "Not tonight, Pete," I replied. "I have to get up early. I need to talk to Mommy's doctors. But I promise I will come over and we will play video games or Legos, whatever your heart desires." Pete smiled. "You promise?" All I could do was smile and say, "I promise." I closed the car door, and Xavier stopped for a minute to close his door so he couldn't hear us. "Jack," Xavier said, "what are you not telling me?" I replied, "Brother, I don't know what you mean." Xavier continued, "How do you know Claire's doctors?" I responded, "I've been here a couple of days. It's Laura Chris and Malcolm Cole." She fixed my face. Xavier said, "Yeah, I know. Jack, that's the thing that's been bugging me. How in the hell did Laura and Malcolm just decide to come to Boston from London to work on my sister's case?" I replied, "I may have made a call. If they could fix me, they could probably fix her too." Xavier said, "So, the great Jack Wesley has a heart. Where are you even getting this money?" I replied, "Xavier, I'm a fucking billionaire with government contracts. I think I can afford a few doctors. Laura and I worked on projects with OMI. You didn't think I designed everything all on my own?" "No," Xavier replied. "But I know you're capable of it." "Yeah," I said, "but it's nice to have multiple minds working on the same goal, unlimited ideas and solutions." Xavier took a deep breath. "I guess I better get him home." I looked in the back window. Pete was already asleep. "Yeah," I replied, "get home safe." I got back to the hotel. I don't remember much. I sat on the edge of my bed, thinking I could quit now. I could just retire. I could let these fuckers get away. Somebody else would take care of it. With all the military forces and other planetary militaries working together, they didn't need me. I could just hang up my armor and call it a day. I wish it was that easy. I wish it was that simple. But I had already caused enough problems for them. They wanted my head, and I wanted closure. Author's notes: thank you all for reading up to this point. I'm still plugging away at this chapter. This is only half of it. There's so much to explain about Jack and Claire. Thank you for being patient. I should hopefully have the rest of the chapter finished sometime this week. Hopefully, if you haven't checked out Learning to Love on Wattpad by author Amanda Panda, I would highly recommend it. She inspired me to write the Titan Protocol, so definitely show her some love, and for anybody reading this in the future, thank you so much for your support.